Hi, I'm Larry Magid, CEO of Connect Safely, the U.S. host of Safer Internet Day. And speaking today to Rob Newton, who's the marketing lead for kids and family at Google. Rob, welcome.
Thanks, Larry. It's great to be here. Thanks.
Now, Rob, before we get into the specifics of what Google offers, you have a couple of products yourself. They're called Kids. And I'm curious about, how you as a parent manage and think about making your kids productive and safe when they go online.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think it definitely influences the way that I think about this stuff and the importance of it. I have two kids. My daughter is 5 and my son has just turned 1. And obviously with my 1-year-old, trying to delay how much technology he's seeing as much as possible. But with my 5-year-old, she definitely is a user of she uses tablets. We often let her, we have sort of the pass back situation where she gets to use the phone sometimes. And I've been really lucky to have her get really interested in some of the stuff that we work on, whether it's playing the Interland game from Internet Awesome. She's actually gotten a lot of fun hours of doing that and is actually learning something from it. She told me I was sitting there playing it with her, and I could see that even though she was only 3 at the time, she was learning how it was important to be kind to others, through our Kind Kingdom game in Internet Awesome. So that was great. My philosophy is really, I think that it's, as they grow, you need to think both about the quality and the quantity of what they're experiencing, particularly now in this new environment. Where we may need to have our kids on devices for a little bit longer during the day. There's that big emphasis on how high quality is this experience, right? How can I make sure that the stuff that she's engaging with, is stuff that I'm comfortable with and happy with, and that maybe she might even learn something from.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's such a range of ways in which people respond to technology, including people like you and I who are sort of part of the tech industry. Not everybody who's into tech believes that we need to have tech 24/7. Clearly you feel that way in terms of making sure your kids are getting quality tech. But the notion that, some parents are going to have different attitudes than others, but even you who works at Google acknowledge that you just don't want to inundate your 1-year-old. And there are parents who do. We just created a booklet called Text Was Taught, or Tots with Tech. And there are a lot of 1-year-olds that are spending time on tablets, yet you, as a tech leader, you've put some thought into that.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I definitely want to emphasize is it just depends on your family situation. It depends on your preferences and what you think is best for your kids. One of the biggest things we focus on is parent choice, right? The Family Link tools were very specifically designed to make, give parents a lot of options, but ultimately make it their choice, what apps their kids are able to see, how much time they're able to spend.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be too prescriptive there. It's mostly, a tool that allows them to have agency over it, but that, certainly no judgment depending on, who are, the unique families in their situation.
And let's talk a little bit more about Family Link. It is a tool for tablets and phones.
And Chromebooks as well.
And Chromebooks that enable parents to allow their kids to use these technologies, but with a certain amount of control, yet at the same time giving kids also a certain amount of freedom. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what Family Link is and sort of the philosophy behind it.
Yeah, for sure. So Family Link is a suite of parental controls that work both on, as you mentioned, Android phones and tablets and Chromebooks. And the way that it works is you actually can create a Google account for your child that's actually much like your Google account and can end up being the Google account that they use for the entirety of their life. But when they're under 13 or whatever the age of consent is in their country for having your own account on an online service, the parent has some agency over that. So what that means is a parent is able to manage the apps that their kids can see on that particular device. They're able to manage the screen time that the kids spend on those devices. And it generally gives them a lot of choices. Some of the other things you can do, so on the screen time side, you can set daily limits, you can set a bedtime, you can set limits per app. So if you want them to spend a little more time in one app but not the other. And you can also lock the device at any time if it's just time to say, too much. On the content side, we allow you to set filters, whether those filters are in Google Play. You're able to toggle safe search on and off. You're able to toggle, certain things within the Google Assistant on and off. And then you can also approve or decline any app that the kid wants to download from the Google Play Store. And then even if you've made the decision to approve an app, you can maybe go back and say, actually, maybe I want to hide that app for a while because you're either spending too much time in it, or maybe I've decided I don't think that that's appropriate anymore. So we've got a whole suite of features that really help parents manage the quality and the quantity of kids' screen time. And then one final feature that we also offer is when the kid's device is on and they've got it with them, you can see the location of that device, right? So you can, presumably know where your kid is if their device is on and if their device is powered on and they're carrying it with them.
And Rob, you and I have talked about this offline, but you see this, I believe, I know I certainly see any kind of parental control tool as more than just a control tool, but really a learning process. Because ultimately, these kids, this product ages out around 13, but at some point they're going to turn 18 and go off and join the army or go, I don't know what they'll do, get a job, and hopefully move out of the house, work for Google, I don't know. But whatever they do, they will be outside of your control. You're in your partner's control. What's your thought about the process of using these tools as teaching experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I know we're going to talk about some of the other things we offer in a minute, but with all of them, I think that the goal is to make it so it's easier for parents to manage this, and managing this is all having a conversation with the kids, right? So, I don't think that anybody should set some screen time limits for their kids and then forget about it, right? I think that there's constantly going to be a conversation about that. And our hope is that the tool makes it easier to have those conversations, that you're able to facilitate, hey, this is why I only want you to spend, this much time on your device per day. And hey, I didn't approve that download, and that's because I think that app is inappropriate for the following reasons, right? Mm-hmm. Those can all be, conversations, and we talk a lot about having the tech talk with kids. I think that all the things that we build and that we've created in this space, we hope can help facilitate that tech talk and make it easier for you to talk to kids as you're trying to navigate technology together. And
I think that's so important. Other products that you have or services, you have something called Be Internet Awesome and a game called Interland, which I've actually played. It's kind of fun, even for me, and hopefully even more fun for younger people. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
So talk to us a little about Be Internet Awesome as well as Interland.
Be Internet Awesome really is a program to help kids, be safer, more confident when they are exploring online, right? There's a number of different ways that you can do this, but ultimately the way we thought about it was we need to create resources for parents. We need to create, teaching materials for educators. But then really the place where we really wanted to lean in is that there has to be something for kids that keeps them engaged in this topic and want them to talk about it and continue to make sure that they stay safe online. And so for that, we built the Interland game. And the Interland game has 4 lands that sort of walk through core topics on online safety, whether it's being kind online, whether it's staying safe by creating strong passwords, knowing who and when it's appropriate to share things with online, and then also spotting scams and things that might fool you online. Within those 4 topics, we created these games, and we found that it's been a really great way for the kids to engage and learn. I mentioned that my daughter Natalie, even at a very young age, before she was really even engaging much online by herself or at all, still gained some value out of the lessons that we teach there because she was understanding sort of how it applies to the real world. And I think that's the other thing when I think a lot about what's happening online versus the real world. Online is just a microcosm of the real world. It is, in fact, part of our real world now. Yeah, and kids aren't discerning a big difference between the real world and what's happening online. It all blends together for them because they are digital natives, right? So to that end, I think there's tremendous value in getting kids started learning about this stuff early so that when they do start getting online and using technology, they're much more comfortable.
Another issue for parents is finding appropriate apps. And that's a struggle I think that everybody goes through. There's Common Sense Media has some advice. There's reviews out there. There's looking at the Play Store, in the case of iOS, the Apple Store. But you actually have something which I think is really cool called Teacher Approved Apps. And I'm curious what that is and how parents can take advantage of that.
Yeah, for sure. In our Play Store, we have a tab, and it's a kids tab, and we wanted to make sure that the stuff that we put there wasn't was stuff that parents could feel some level of excitement about, in that it was going to be quality content for kids. So we spent some time, a lot of time actually, a few years, working together, building a network of teachers, and we worked with educators at some institutions like Harvard and Georgetown to help us develop a rubric. And that rubric the teachers take and apply when they're sort of reviewing these apps. And then apps that meet a certain quality threshold are put into that kids tab and featured front and center. It really stems from the fact that, we have all these things about online safety and about parental controls, but the reason we have those things is because there is this value for our kids using technology that we know about. Like, we wouldn't need the parental controls and the safety education if we didn't think there was some value in having our kids be on there. We would just tell them not to get online. We know there's value there. There's some great things that they can experience. And so once they're all set up and we've laid that foundation of making sure that we can help them through that experience, we want them to have the really good experience that they should have. And so that's sort of how we think about those quality apps. So today, if a parent goes to the Play Store, they can navigate to the Kids tab. They can see right there, like, all the apps that are in the teacher approved program. And also, if you're just browsing and searching for apps in general, you can look for the teacher approved badge. It's a little badge with a check mark, and it'll say teacher approved on it. And then when you see a teacher approved app, you can go into the information, and it'll have a bunch of details on why it's actually a teacher approved app and why it's actually been rated as high quality, so parents can get a sense for whether or not it's the right thing for their kid.
And, and it's also important, I think, for parents to realize that as great as these tools are, as great as the advice you're getting from teachers, there's no substitute for actual parenting. And I'm sure you,
Right.
as a father of a 1-year-old and 5-year-old, spend plenty of time around your kids, whether it's reading paper books or going, holding the tablet up for them or co-playing. I mean, it's still very important, I think, for parents to be involved in their children's education and in their play.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, there's a bit of a sense that this helps for when you can't be as involved. That I think tools like Family Link, making sure your kids are educated with things like Be Internet Awesome, and that they have the right stuff already on their devices so that they can have fun, but also in a way that you feel good about. Those are all really good things. But we also, we definitely agree that, like, none of this is meant to substitute, one, just general parenting, and two, those conversations, which are really critical in helping kids as they grow with technology, because we know that, in 6 months, there's going to be some things around technology that none of us expected. Yeah. And we're all going to have to, have yet another conversation about how to use this new service or what you're supposed to do with this new app. So
we didn't plan to talk about this, but I'm going to bring it up. The whole issue of the pandemic. I mean, how did that change? How has that had any impact on the way, you interact with your kids around technology?
I think for sure, I'll be honest, I would love to say that the kids' screen time is exactly the same as it was before and I'm managing it perfectly, but that's just simply not true. Like, there are times when, either I have to work or there have just been times when, luckily, I've relied on technology. I've actually handed Natalie a tablet with our Kidspace product and said, I need you to, bump up her screen time amount a little bit. And I'm like, I've got to get on this call. And it's been a blessing. It's also been really nice to know that, it's an experience that I know about. And obviously, like, I've been lucky enough to work on it. So I trust it. But I think that there's no question that, like, it definitely has shifted from thinking more about, if I'm going to have to put my kids in front of a screen, that's going to be a high quality experience, as opposed to thinking a lot about just hard limits on the amount of time they're spending online.
And I'm sure Natalie isn't getting as many play dates in the old fashioned sense of the word that she would have gotten.
Exactly.
So, so screen
definitely.
Screen time is sometimes the only time you get to be with your friends, or for that matter, go to school. I mean,
it's true. And I think I've noticed that she has been able, thankfully, been able to develop relationships with some of her classmates in kindergarten, even having to do it almost exclusively through doing these video conferences, right? So I'm happy to report that she knows her friends' names, like, she knows things about them. She's told me about them. They share emotions because she tells me that so-and-so has been nice to me. And I think of that as, like, really high quality screen time, right? That's incredibly important for her to have, while acknowledging that I very much wish that she was able to, like, hang out with these kids, develop, what, like, in-person relationships with them, maybe even share a hug someday. But for now, like, I'm thankful that some of these things have been able to transcend, probably what we ever thought they could in terms of developing those relationships.
And speaking of high quality screen time, I wish that you and I could get together for a cup of coffee, or that we could have you speak at one of our events and in front of people in the audience, maybe next year. Hopefully, yes. I think so. But in the meantime, I think we've made the best with the technology. And, thank God we've got the technology. I've thought a lot about the 1918 flu and how the world is at least better equipped to deal with the tragic situation we're in than we would have been had we not had this technology.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're very blessed. Like, I think that while technology is something that we are sort of worried about a lot and constantly thinking about, how are my kids interacting with this thing? At the end of the day, I think that it's, helped a lot of families, stay connected during the pandemic. It's helped, if we didn't have it, like maybe our kids were going to be missing an entire year of school. And so to that end, like I'm very thankful that it's sort of been able to play that role in my kids' life and just in the life of kids in general.
Rob, you guys have a service called Kidspace, which is an Android tablet experience. And I know there's a lot of really good content there. Tell me a little bit about what you offer with that.
Yeah, for sure. So Kidspace, we launched it last year. It's currently limited to just a few Android tablets, but we'll be expanding that soon. And we talked a little bit about the teacher-approved apps program and how that's where we sort of find higher quality content. We expanded to find ways to do that both for videos through YouTube Kids and our Google Books. And then the tablet experience has been reskinned, so kids can come in, create an avatar, sort of like explore Android, but within sort of a new sort of universe that is created specifically for a kid, and they're able to then explore content that we've deemed to be quality experiences. So that they can explore it on their own. We also wanted to make sure that when a kid has a tablet, it's important that there's a lot of content for them to find, right? I think that if there's only a very small subset of content, they very quickly run out of things to do or get bored. And parents, they do absolutely want to maintain the ability to manage their kids' experience, and that's why Family Link is still the way that you're able to manage that experience, whether it's setting the screen time limits for Kidspace, whether it's going in and managing what apps they can and can't use. But we also recognize that the kids' experience, it has to be a good one. The kids, none of this stuff with technology works if the kids aren't actually engaged and having a good time. And so that's why we created Kidspace, to really have a really awesome experience for kids roughly between the ages of 2 and 8, which is a pretty wide spectrum, but we create an experience that sort of can grow with the kids between those ages. We wanted to make sure that they had a great experience that also was something that parents still felt great about and were able to manage the Family Link app.
And how can parents get their hands on the Kidspace experience for their kids?
To see the full availability, you can go to families.google.com/Kidspace, all one word, and we have the tablets that are available on the site.
Great. Rob Newton, marketing lead, kids and family at Google. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Larry.